Hello, dear listeners, and welcome back to another episode of our podcast. Today, we're going to delve into a topic that's close to my heart and, I believe, close to many of your hearts as well. We're going to talk about planting for all seasons, about incorporating plants that showcase their beauty throughout the year. Let's start with the basics. What does it mean to plant for all seasons? Well, it's all about creating a garden that remains vibrant and beautiful throughout the year, regardless of the season. It's about choosing plants that bloom at different times, ensuring that there's always something interesting happening in your garden. Now you might be thinking, that sounds great, but how do I do it? Well, that's exactly what we're going to explore today. Firstly, let's talk about spring. Spring is a time of rebirth and renewal, and your garden should reflect that. Bulbs are a great choice for spring because they can be planted in the fall and will bloom beautifully in the spring. Think tulips, daffodils, and hyacinths. These are all classic spring flowers that will add a burst of color to your garden after the long winter months. But don't stop there. Consider adding some early blooming perennials to your spring garden as well. Plants like primroses, hellebores, and bleeding hearts are all excellent choices. They'll start blooming in the spring and continue to add color and interest to your garden for several weeks. As we move into summer, the options for your garden really start to open up. This is the time for your roses, your lilies, your hydrangeas. These are plants that love the heat and will thrive in the summer months. But don't forget about your annuals. Plants like marigolds, petunias, and zinnias can be planted in the spring and will bloom all summer long, adding a constant source of color to your garden. Now, as we transition into fall, you might think that your gardening days are over for the year. But that's not the case at all. These are all plants that will bloom in the fall and add a touch of color to your garden as the leaves start to change. And finally, let's talk about winter. Yes, even in the winter. There are plants that can add beauty to your garden. Evergreens are a classic choice, of course, but don't forget about plants like winterberry, witch hazel, and hellebores. These are all plants that can bloom in the winter, adding a touch of color and interest to your garden even in the coldest months. Now, planting for all seasons does require a bit of planning. You'll need to think about when each plant blooms and how it will fit into your overall garden design. But the effort is well worth it. With a bit of planning and a selection of the right plants, you can create a garden that is vibrant and beautiful all year round. And remember, gardening is not just about the end result. It's about the process. It's about getting your hands dirty, about nurturing something and watching it grow. It's about the joy of seeing that first bloom in the spring, the satisfaction of a garden full of color in the summer, the quiet beauty of a fall garden, and the stark elegance of a winter garden. So, dear listeners, I encourage you to embrace the idea of planting for all seasons. Choose plants that will bloom at different times, that will add color and interest to your garden throughout the year. And most importantly, enjoy the process, because at the end of the day, that's what gardening is all about. Thank you for joining me today, and I look forward to our next episode where we'll continue to explore the wonderful world of gardening. Until then, happy planting.